Hi, welcome to my video on reading data memory with a loop. What I'm going to show you today is we're going to go through an ASCII string and print out each character in that string one by one using a loop. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a label in my .data and I'm going to call it cake because I love cake, and then I'm going to give it the ASCII value. The cake is alive. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load immediate T0 with the value 0x10 10010000. Okay, and whenever you hear 0x10010000, the first thing that should come to your mind is it's the first location in the memory address, sorry, the data memory. Always remember that 0x10010000 is the location, the first location in your data memory. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make my loop. So in the beginning of my loop, I'm going to call it run loop, and it's going to be a label. And then towards the end of my loop, I need some sort of jump. So what I'm going to do is do a jump run loop. So this is going to run back up here. And finally, I need a label to get out of my loop, so I'm going to call that label end loop. And I'm going to load immediate v0 with 10 right here and do a syscall. And by now, you guys should know what syscall 10 does. And one thing you guys should know is run loop, end loop, and cake are all arbitrary labels. You can call it whatever you want as long as you're consistent in your code. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to print out one character at a time. So I'm going to load the byte and I'm going to put the value into A0, and I'm going to put the value T0 into A0. So what is the value of T0? Well, the value of T0, it's our location in the data memory. One thing you guys should know is when you're putting the address, when you're using a register to store the address and you're using a load byte, you need to put parentheses across your register with the data location. So in this case, T0 is our register with the data location, so we're going to put parentheses on it. The next thing we're going to do is load immediate v0 with 11, and what that does is it prints out a character. Then we're finally going to do a syscall. So what does this code do? First, it loads the location from T0 and puts it into A0, then and these two lines just prints out whatever is in A0. And the final thing towards the end, what we need in our loop is we need some sort of way to increment T0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an add I T0 T0, and I'm going to put 0x01. What is that? Well, that's just going to increment 1 T0 by 1 each time this loop runs. And towards the top of our loop, I want to make sure that there's some sort of way to exit from this loop. So I'm going to branch if equal to T0, and if T0 is equal to 0x10010011, if it's equal to that value, it's going to go to the label end loop. Okay, now everything looks good in our code, and let's see what happens if we run it. So I'm going to run and assemble it. I'm going to go to my run IO, and the first thing that happens is T0 gets the value 0x10010000. That's our first location, the memory address. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to load the byte T0 and put it into A0. Now if you look at A0, the value of A0 is 0x74. Where did that 74 come from? Well, that 74 came from the data memory, and in the data we see that the first ASCII character is 0x74. The next one is 0x68, and so let's see if our code does it. first our code prints out the character that's in A0, then it increments T0 by 1, and as you can see, T0 is incremented by 1. Then our value of A0 changes to 0x68, and that's the second character in our data memory. And as I run this code, it's gonna put A0 into it's gonna put 0x68 into A0, and then it's gonna do a syscall, and our second letter in our data memory is printed out. And as this loop keeps continuing, it just keeps going on, and it keeps printing out each character in the data memory, slowly but eventually. And finally, our code should stop when T0 is equal to 0x10010011. So let's see if we can get it there. And if you follow the run IO, you can see that it's just printing out our string one letter at a time. And finally, we reached our desired value of T0, and that's 0x10010011, and it checks if our T0 is equal to that value, and since it is, it's going to go to end loop, and it just ends our program right there. And that's all there is to this video. Hope to see you guys next time.